So my hybrid methods of job work analysis is the DACUM approach, which is short for developing a curriculum. The DACUM was first developed in the late 1960s to analyze the content of occupations as the basis for designing technical courses in community college settings. Since then, DACUM has been used across all kinds of jobs, both professional and unprofessional, and a variety of other work settings. This is a method that is created and not purchased. The definition of DACUM, or developing a curriculum, is a process that incorporates the use of a focal group in a facilitated storyboarding process to capture the major duties and related tasks included in occupation, as well as necessary knowledge, skills, and traits. In the DACUM process, high-performing incumbent workers, which are SMEs, analyze their own job. DACUM utilizes a panel of 6 to 8 high-performing SMEs over a 2-day period. These skilled workers identify the duties and tasks that make up their job. Under the direction of a neutral facilitator, the panel analyzes their job-related tasks while using a modified brainstorming process that encompasses a storyboarding technique. The final result is an occupational profile presented in a chart format which describes a job in terms of specific duties and tasks that competent workers must perform. The recommended purposes and applications. DACUM is used often for curriculum development and has been at community and technical schools, national policy centers, nonprofit, non-government organizations, businesses, and industries. They are used to develop accurate job descriptions, to evaluate if existing programs provide training for the competencies needed for today's jobs, as a pretest to determine the training needs for staff, to develop competency-based post-tests for training, and as the foundation for developing a complete training program for a specific job in the correctional system. They are used for developing performance evaluations, making career decisions with information about specific occupations, and used for new supervisors and managers, understanding of what their employees do or should do while on the job. The method works. The process can be separated into 3 separate phases. The first phase is preparing to conduct the DACUM. This phase is the preparation phase for the facilitator. During this phase, a facilitator must utilize different sources of information like ONUT and different methods of gathering information. The facilitator might even see it fit to conduct one-to-one interviews to find out more about the job. It is important for the facilitator to be educated and knowledgeable about the job at hand before conducting the DACUM. So these steps are identifying the job title, becoming familiar with the job using a range of sources and methods, and prepare a summary of the job information for reference during the DACUM. The second step is conducting the DACUM. You are bringing together your subject matter experts. You're providing an orientation of the SMEs, which is the purpose, process, definitions, outputs, and rules regarding the DACUM. Then you're going to present prompting questions such as, what are the major activities and duties of the job? What are the tasks within each duty? What are the prerequisite competencies, steps, prerequisite knowledge and skills, resources, and key terms for the job? You're then going to post responses for group discussion and consensus, present draft DACUM charts for panel review, and manage group process of panel. The second phase is the most critical for the facilitator because it's the actual meeting with the panel of SMEs. The third and last step is to verify the results for the DACUM. This is where you're going to prepare final DACUM chart and additional information for review, conduct final review of DACUM chart for the panel, and obtain final management and expert approvals. The verification process might be done by different stakeholders, job incumbents, quality or safety staff, or senior managers. Verification also can be done by a survey instrument, which is normally delivered through a web-based platform. So these are some examples of the job. So I posted a blank DACUM research chart where you identify the duties and the tasks. Right under that is an example for an insurance writer. I also created my own job, duty, task, and step examples. For definition, a duty is a cluster of related tasks, and that's usually about 6 to 12 per job. A task is a specific, meaningful unit of work. And steps are specific elements or activities required to perform a task, which are always one or more per task. So my definition or my examples, the job is a chef. He prepares meals by baking or cooking the food, and his first step is to mix the ingredients. My second example is a homeowner. Their duty is to maintain the yard by mowing the lawn, and their first step is to start the mower. And at the bottom is an example of how they use the storyboard platform, and it's how interactive it is for the SMEs. So some issues with the method. DACUM makes 3 assumptions about the work being analyzed. The first, the DACUM is very reliant on the SMEs. Subject matter experts are supposed to be the most knowledgeable individuals about the job. DACUM assumes that these individuals will be readily available to participate and be able to describe what they do, be able to describe what they do better than anybody else in the job. Secondly, DACUM assumes that the technique can be used to analyze any job, given that the job can be separated into its component parts. This tends to be a continued assumption regarding work analysis in general, but DACUM also has some limitations from a job level perspective. And the third is the specific knowledge, skills, attitudes, and skills required by workers in order to correctly perform their tasks can also be described. This also is the assumption of mastery learning. DACUM assumes that the individual must learn or possess the prerequisites during the process to be able to learn how to perform the job from the information generated from the technique. Advantages of the DACUM: it provides a solid foundation for program development or revision. It's very efficient. It's only a few-day process. It's also very low in cost. Maximizes stakeholder input, and is able to identify all the critical tasks and related general knowledge, skills, tools, and work behaviors. Some disadvantages. The success of using DACUM is largely dependent on the abilities of the facilitator. The facilitator should be content-free in terms of the job, obviously be an expert in the DACUM technique, be able to listen actively to all contributions, encourage contributions from all SMEs, control participants who try to dominate, probe responses with questions that tend to be or should be open-ended, manage conflicts but also allow some disagreement if it's appropriate, and maintain an open climate. The facilitator should also have a clear sense of the meaning of verbs that will be used for the duty and task statements. The facilitator should help guide the SMEs to identify the verbs that best match the intent of the duty and task statements. The importance of doing this often reveals itself during the process when the facilitator is seeking to help the panel reconcile the duty statements with the various tasks, and perhaps more importantly, when the task statements are being used for specific purposes later. Since it is so heavily reliant on human interaction and human feedback, that creates a large gap for misunderstanding or miscommunication from the SMEs. And those are my references.